Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of Power Spike here on Last Free Nation. It's your boy dGon alongside Dom and Monty. Sorry, as per usual, running in 22-ish minutes late. It's a little different this time because there was no LPL to end to let us know when to start. So we've just spent the last 22 minutes talking about like a bunch of
Your apartment hunt?
people that my apartment hunt, people that have failed upwards.
Yeah, we
And
just
the
talked
new
shit about people
commission-
that we don't like in esports for 20 minutes. We can just say what it was. We just
Honestly,
talk shit about people we don't like in esports for 20 minutes.
It's like that.
We had to get it off our chest to start the show. You know, you
Sometimes
hear that though.
Yeah, sometimes it's because we're late. Sometimes it's a warm up. You know, we're just getting into how we want to host the show. So welcome back, Monty. How are you?
Good. Next week it'll be me and Yamato, right? Or maybe I'll host. It'll be Yamato, me, and Dom. Who knows? It just changes.
Oh,
The rotation, the rotations, the master of rotations here. I didn't even know this was
back this
happening.
week. No, I'm just joking. It's great.
That's fine.
I'm happy to be back. We're mixing it up, guys. Mixing it up.
Dom, how about you, man? How 5 days straight of LPL into now finally a nice break. 7
Yep.
days, however many days it was straight.
it was I think 3 days. There was like a little break. Then there was 3 days of LPL, and yeah, now I'm gonna be taking a couple days off. It's not really taking time off because I'm just gonna be making like a LPL playoffs video. Then I'm gonna do Sackdown on Thursday. So it's like I'm still in the grind. I'm ready to grind. I feel good about everything. I'll probably do some CB LOL on Friday. You know, like who knows? Maybe I catch the Sandbox versus KDF series because I've been actually really liking Sandbox recently. They're like kind of like my favorite team to watch in Korea.
Oh my God.
That's a hot fucking
What?
take, Dom.
I like teams like that. Those are the teams I like. I like teams like Anyone's Legend. I like teams like Sandbox. I like teams that are like punch it up and like they play together, but they're kind of bad. You know, like if they're good at all, it's hard for me to like them. I need them to be kind of shit.
So then you liked Kwangdong at the beginning of the split, and now B&K, Fear X, Sandbox at the end
Kind
of
of.
the
It depends. It depends on like the type of players on it, I guess, as well for me. Like somebody like Cuz, who I feel like I just know him, and if he's like performing on like certain champs, I don't know. For me, it's like I'm not too hyped about it, but something about like the Sandbox players, you know, like I feel like the players are all new enough that I mean, to me, like Closer is still a fucking rookie. Like that's like how I've seen it. I mean, I know this guy's played for like 4 years, but it's like, but it's like this guy is like pretty young in his career, and he hasn't had that success yet. So for me, I like watching
it because he's a mid-ass bum.
Yeah, I mean he's mid in Korea, but I mean, hey, you can make an argument that he's having a better split than than Faker right now with how things have been going. Like Faker's getting solo killed constantly, man. Like he didn't do it this week, but like he had been getting solo killed constantly.
Yeah. Well, perfect transition into our topic of the first topic of the day. It's this Gen GT1 match, and then the fallout from the fan video that was put out from the fan that put it out there. I think someone finally claimed it. Their name was like Desert Rose something. It's out on the internet. They put out an apology, and you know they just got dumped on by the T1 fans. But we've seen a lot of different takes on it. So interested to hear what your guys' take was on seeing the fan video where Faker
Oh my God.
basically hits his head on the wall after the game in review a couple times, takes off his glasses, does it one more time, and then he's held back by his teammates from
Buma
that.
comes and grabs him by the shoulders and like pulls him away. And it was after game 1 of the Gen G series. That was when Faker was having a rough time there in some of the team fights on Corki. And just so you guys know, like it doesn't. He hits his head in what appears to be kind of hard, but also the surface doesn't appear. So it's inside like the booth where they're doing the review with the coaches, and it's not like a brick wall or anything like that. It's probably drywall or something. So
Yeah, I mean,
certainly it hurt. But it's not like he gave himself a concussion or anything like
but
that.
also, if you notice how he does it, he doesn't like lose his mind completely and just start bashing his head into the wall. Like he gives it like a few like tests first to like see how hard he like, because he like wants to hit his head, but he doesn't want to like fucking like shatter his skull, right? So he like hits it a couple times, that he hits it like once harder, and then he takes off his glasses and goes for the one at the end where Guma grabs him. So like obviously he was extremely frustrated, but I think that. Yeah, I think one thing I like everyone kept on saying this. They're like you have to take him out. Like you have a player that's self-harming, and I feel like that that phrasing is like really dramatic to me. Like obviously, I guess in the literal sense, it's like self-harm. But like when you say like Faker is now self-harming after matches, like we have to take him out. It makes it sound like he's like cutting himself or something. Like that's how people.
Yeah,
view
yeah,
it.
yeah.
It makes it sound like every time he loses, he like cuts his arm or something. Like it just has a different connotation that I feel like dramatizes it to like another level where it's like people get mad and hit shit. You know, and like the reason why he's hitting his head is because his hands, obviously, I mean, he's had like hand problems in recent times. Like he's had like injuries before, but he's also like, oh, like the hands are the moneymaker here. So like there's a reason why he's choosing to hit his head.
Yeah. And also, I think like just to put this straight up, guys, I'm going to be, very critical of the fan response to this right now. Because I think it comes from a lack of understanding and like a babying of Faker, which I don't think he needs. But I do want to say, like, obviously this sucks to see.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna like say it wasn't a big deal or anything like that. Like, it really does suck. Like, the fan took the video of it. Faker clearly didn't want it out there. But I'm gonna now, because you guys are hopefully intelligent people, you can say Faker hitting his head into a wall because he lost a video game is not cool. Okay, but I have to say that up front because I'm about to say a bunch of really critical shit about the response to this, which is as follows. Like, first off, as you referenced, dGon, what the fuck is wrong with T1 fans where they're dogpiling the person who took this video? If you put this in a sports context and you see a professional athlete like punch the bench, or like when they like make a bad play, if they go to the bench in a sports game and they punch it really hard and somebody takes a video of that, do the fans all of a sudden say this must be deleted from the internet and purged? It's like, no, it's just a moment.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And there's not, I would be shocked if anyone said like, oh, this player is like self-harming or they need to be pulled. Like, these are highly competitive people, guys. And by the way, we've never even had this conversation before, despite people breaking their hands. Motherfuckers, what do you think happened to Oscarinen and Soaz?
Yep.
Where was the fucking concern trolling about that? Where was it, guys? Those were actual, like, bigger injuries.
Yeah.
100%. And you don't break your hand on something, hitting something. Like, he's hitting his head and he like tested it. It wasn't like he just like freaked out and he just like bashed his head as hard into like something, because that would be like more scary. Like, I think that if you watch how he does it, there is like some, it's like he hasn't actually lost his mind completely. He's just like getting out his frustration. He's super angry and he's just like getting out his frustration. I think that there's like this pearl clutching when it comes to Faker that is like different than anyone else. Like, if you saw a random like LCK or LPL player do this, they would be like, what the fuck? That guy's got anger issues. That's how the community would react. Like, almost guaranteed they would just be like, yeah, like this guy, like something's wrong with that guy. He has anger issues. Where it's like, I don't think that's the right response either. But the idea that like when it's Faker, it's like people are like posting like I'm bawling my eyes out right now, and I like, so it's like, dude,
he
like
must be protected.
Like, he's a competitive guy. He's also extremely mentally strong. Like, he's a mentally like strong person in general terms. Like, he's been through stuff in his career and he's been able to get back to the top and he's been able to like put his head down and grind. Just let him figure the situation out. Let T1 figure the situation out. I don't think I think you just talk to the guy afterwards. It's like, yo, like, we're like a little bit concerned with what happened. Like, are you still good to play? Like, maybe just like have him talk to somebody for like 20-30 minutes, like somebody that has some type of mental health expertise, and that's like it, and then have them like do an evaluation. If he says he's good, he's like, yeah, I was just really frustrated, like, my bad, I won't do that again. And it's like, okay, that's just a blip on the radar, let him keep competing. I said this on Twitter, but I do actually think that for a really competitive person, one of the worst things you can do is like stop them from being able to compete. Like, if you take this to any good player,
that's the actual mental damage.
That's
the actual mental damage you would give him.
Yeah. So that's what I was trying to get at there. And I tried to phrase it in a way where it's like, it's not me trying to minimize the situation, but at the same time, it's like, as somebody who, like, I cared about competing when I was a competitor, like, I didn't I would hate to like have to not compete based off anything else. That would be like the worst thing in the world. That's the worst part. Like when I got fucking banned by Riot, that was like the worst thing ever. That like I literally said this on stream. I was actually just considering killing myself. I was like, my life is completely fucked. Like I dropped college to do this. Now I can't compete. Like being able to like not compete is something that's so horrible for somebody who's really competitive. So the idea that like we're gonna jump in and like that's going to be somehow protecting him, that could be like the worst thing for him. So let them deal with it. Like let T1 deal with it. Let him talk to people. And if he says he's good to go and he talks to mental health professionals and they're like, yeah, like he's good. He like vented his frustration, maybe find some healthier ways for him to manage his stress. I think you just let the situation go. People need to stop treating Faker like he's an actual god. I think this is a big problem we have in the community. People have this like K-pop stan, like they view him as a god. So if he ever acts like human in any moment, it's like, oh my god, something is so wrong. He's acting like a human being. It's like humans are not perfect. He is extremely good at a video game. He's a human being. Also, people don't know what Faker does in his private. Like you don't know how Faker normally reacts. Like you don't know like what his normal frustration levels are. Like how competitive he is. Like how self-critical he is. Like all this type of stuff. From the outside looking in, you just don't know. So like, it's really, it shouldn't be that much of your business. It's like concerning. You saw it. Trust the people to handle it. Trust the people within T1. I'm sure that they saw it too. It's obviously a big deal in Korea. They'll. I mean, from what we've seen, I think with Faker, who's like their most prized asset, I think they will handle it appropriately.
Right. And I think we should also just turn the conversation to, what causes, like, we can have a reasonable conversation about what could have caused this level of frustration, because there's a lot that I think goes into this moment for Faker, which is a really powerful narrative. And I think it helps you understand perhaps Faker's mindset, such as he's now lost 10 consecutive times in a row to Gen.G. It is literally his longest losing streak ever to a domestic rival in 10 years. Okay, guys. He's playing against Chovy, who has, in many people's mind, kind of usurped him as the best mid laner in the world. I think any reasonable person's mind would say that, right? And I think for somebody with a legacy like his, that is really very frustrating and difficult. I think you have to remember that as much as competitive athletes, like athletes and players, love winning, typically in my experience, they hate losing more than they love winning.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
which also like, contributes to this. And we also have to think about Faker's schedule for the past couple of years, which has been outrageous. This guy has played in every single domestic final for the past 2 years, which means he has played in every possible match. He's made deep runs at MSI, making the finals at MSI or making other deep runs. He's made the finals at Worlds twice. He has had to go to EWC, which he won, again, made the finals, played the maximum number of matches. He has had to go in the off season to the Red Bull bullshit tournament in Paris, that T1 obviously like felt they had to go to because Red Bull sponsors them. But my point is like, when has this guy had any time off? He literally he goes to every international event. He goes to every finals domestically. He goes all the way through Worlds to the very end without taking a break. And then he has to do all of his press stuff, all of his sponsor stuff in the offseason, all of the Red Bull optional esports World Cup and Red Bull tournaments, because that's what his team says he must do. I mean, this guy's probably at the end of his rope. If anything, like, I think you should be looking at T1 and saying, why has this schedule existed for Faker? Not only Faker, by the way, but all of his teammates as well. It's crazy.
I think that's where my concern comes in, where, yes, maybe not a god dumb for sure. Obviously, I mean, he's not, but
he's a human being.
He's a human being. We'll start there. But now
Definitely.
he is the brand. He is the brand of T1. He is the brand of the LCK. He is the brand of League of Legends esports. And if you've watched EWC, where they made the fucking video that they're still using today for every single one, they've got the statue of him in the middle of all of the esports greats. He is esports. Yep. And I think that's where when we saw the video over at LCK, I saw it after the series, and I saw him in the hallway. Like, I saw Owner walk away. I saw Guma, both of them, very polite as they normally do, head bow, whatever. Faker walked by, he did the head bow, and then left with the teammates. Then we saw the video, like, literally 60 seconds later. it was just so like disheartening to see and jarring to see because of, you know, who he is and what he represents, which Monty just outlined is so much to so many people in so many different areas of life. That was the part that was like, wow, we're seeing a very human moment here from a person that all of us can relate to in terms of being frustrated and sometimes losing control. And I think what you guys, I think, said nailed it on the head. It's if you take away the outlet, the only outlet that he knows, and don't try to fix it with him by not taking away the outlet, but work with him on it. Let him work it out that way. He is a professional, and you have other professionals. You have access to the top of any field because you're T1, because you're Faker.
And true.
Go get
And
them.
like, I'm not worried about T1 taking care of him either. Like, T1's a great org.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, they're not going to like let this just slide, I don't think.
I mean, yeah, they also like they're invested in it as well, right? Like it's not like he's just some like random guy. Like they have like it really matters that he's in good condition. So yeah, I just hope that people like relax a little bit, because I feel like the fan response was just like so it was like overly dramatic, and like I don't know. I feel like this happens every time with anything that's like T1 and Faker. It's just, you see like so many like crazy accounts, and you're like, wow, this is like a mentally ill take, and then you'll see like 7,000 likes on the tweet, and you're like, wait, this is normal? Like we're celebrating this? Like I don't know. It just feels really weird on the outside.
Also, sorry, Thorin.
Well,
I mean, Thorin's esports too, but you know.
Yeah.
well, but I mean, it's like Faker is globally the most famous person in esports, hands down. Right? There's not even a close second.
Yeah.
Because League is a global game. And a lot of the people who would be famous in the West, like from Counter-Strike, like Simple, are just not going to be that well known in Asia, generally speaking. So, you know, Faker is the most prominent person in esports by a large margin.
Yep. Yeah. I just wish that he was like more humanized, like in a way. Like I don't know. It seems I don't know. It just feels different with him than anything else. Like I feel like we've lost the plot. There's like this weird idol culture that has been going on. I've ranted about it on stream before. I think it's just super unhealthy.
But T1 does this. T1 does this.
They do play to this fan base. I mean,
They
has
play to this
gotten
fan
them
base.
this far.
They play to this fan base, and well, no, it didn't used to exist. This, by the way, this phenomenon only happened after, you know, the joint venture between Comcast and SK Telecom. This was not there 10 years ago. This didn't exist. This was very deliberately encouraged in the past four or 5 years. And they're running the K-pop playbook, and that means that, you know, they basically just turn these people away from, you know, being human, right? It's the same shit they always do with the K-pop stars here, which is like make them larger than life, make them available, forbid them from like publicly dating, like all of this other shit. You know, it's the same. It's the same thing. They've just K-popified them. It's bad. It's very bad.
So just a little bit of extra news that kind of came out. I'm not sure if you covered this on other shows, Monty, but there was the T1 2023 World Skin Release show match that happened. It was the current team against I think the previous greats. I think Blank was there, Bang was there, a couple other players were there. Faker did not go.
I see we're using very liberally the word great here, but yeah, sure, I'm with you. Some other players
T1 greats
in the past.
T1 greats.
T1 greats.
Okay, sure.
I would say you're abusing the word greats, but you know, continue.
Bengi wasn't there. Bengi Mykles
greats
was
like
not there.
Blank and Bang. Yep. All right. Yep. Continue.
All right. And so, well, anyways, like T1 greats that have won Worlds with T1 before, they showed up, they played a show match, and Faker was not there. So he was off, I think it was yesterday, Monday, and they said that I don't want to misquote it. I just want to triple check, but I think he tested positive for COVID, and so they wanted to make sure that nothing happened there. All right, we would like to thank all of our fans for their support for the skin showcase. Faker will not attend the event due to testing positive for COVID-19. This was a hard decision for the team, but his priority is his health. Additionally, we'll make sure that Faker can focus on his recovery so that he can play in good condition for the upcoming matches. Please continue to support him and the team. Like, this is, yeah,
it's crazy that he got COVID from that wall. Wow, wild.
You don't know who touched that wall.
Yeah, we don't know his been
a likely excuse. A likely excuse.
It's dGon. dGon went to EWC, came back,
didn't have to
COVID.
I'm. What do you mean? I'm good. I haven't missed a single day.
dGon went to EW. Oh, now he's coughing. Yep. dGon ruined Faker.
I'm not sure if you noticed. I've been muting every now and then.
30 Americans coming in, ruining Faker's legacy.
Yeah,
it's horrible. Hate it.
All right. Well, hopefully, it was such a big moment in the space, and how I guess Faker and the rest of T1 will react over the next several weeks will be a talking point for this year. Like, I think it's a whole point from this year, and it also shows.
Can we have one late summer regular season without a fucking Faker crisis, please? Can I have one of those? Just like, is there just like built-in drama every summer now?
I mean, look, with this, they're in a situation where T1 cannot actually afford to go on like some type of like like loss of Faker, and then you just go on a losing streak here. Like, this could get kind of bad. Like, they are not that high up in the standings this time.
They sure are not.
I wonder how long he would be out. I'm not sure what the regulations are or how long. If you're running a team,
they play. I'm just gonna say they play Nongshim and Brion this week. If there was a week to not have Faker, this would be the week.
You mean if there was a week to pick Bro against T1? First mate fate is about to put Booty in the ground, dog. What?
Bro
one of these
is kind of
teams
hot
is on a
right
winning
now.
streak. One of these teams is not.
That's what I'm saying. I know
the LCK guys.
Yes. dGon, dGon is in fact on a 1-match winning streak. Really remarkable.
That is a winning streak for them. That might be like an all-time. That might be an organization.
They tied their record.
Organizational accomplishment. Yeah,
they tied their 1-match winning streak.
So we have to do our predictions every week, and the LCK boys are like, dGon, your Preds are so far behind. You should just stick on the Bro train. And I was like, okay, sure. So I changed it, and I put
Bro. There's no way you call them Preds. We don't call them. We call them.
We always call them Preds.
All right.
Oh
nice. Yeah, just predictions.
You're the worst.
All right. So the Preds thing comes, the Preds thing comes from Overwatch, actually. So a lot of that, some of the Overwatch casters like brought the Preds back. But yes, my Preds are boomed is definitely like an Overwatch phrase.
Thank you for educating me, Dom. I will steer clear of that in my vernacular for moving.
No,
if you want to be the worst Pred in the LCK, like, I'm not gonna hate on you for it. So it is what it is, bro. Good luck to you.
I'd be the worst Pred with Bro. That was
yeah. True.
All right. Well, anyways, that was the Faker stuff. I loved your insights, and again, it is a talking point, and I'm glad that we were able to talk about it. It was just sad. It was really sad. Hopefully Faker gets his the help that he needs and comes back stronger than ever. A great Faker performance is always leads to great worlds. All right. So that is in the book. Let's see, what is our next topic? Oh, our next topic is talking to you about one of our sponsors here on Power Spike that recently just joined us. It's our friends over at MeUndies. That's right. Maybe you've seen the ads out there over in LA. Huge billboards everywhere.
Oh, really?
For MeUndies. Yeah, dude, it's so cool. All right. For most of the year, fancy underwear technology sounds unnecessary. Breathable, quick dry, moisture wicking, anti-odor overkill. But then summer hits, and suddenly, steaming beads of sweat are forming slimy pools in places they shouldn't. Suddenly, breathable, quick dry, moisture wicking, and anti-odor are sounding pretty damn essential. Because summer's coming fast, and you need to be prepared like your boy dGon with MeUndies. MeUndies has something for every guy this summer. Their micromodal fabric is breathable and comfortable, especially especially the ball caddy with its special pouch to help you avoid bat winging. Bat jet. It's a style for everyone because MeUndies has a cut for every guy's butt. Over 10 different styles ranging from boxer briefs to jock straps to our special pouch underwear called the ball caddy that keeps you from bat winging every now and again. These cuts come in 100 different colors and prints ranging from black to white all over dinosaurs. Monty, when we were picking them out, what caught your eye about me?
So I bought these before. And they are made out of micromodal fabric, so it is a natural fabric. And I will say, I am looking forward to getting mine here because dGon, as you know, Korea is in
It's
monsoon
swampy
season.
out here, dude.
The swamp ass is real, and the cotton just ain't cutting it.
Maybe that's what pissed Faker off. He didn't have MeUndies.
It is. Yeah, that's right. His balls were stuck to his leg.
It was
but
bat winging.
It is horrible here right now, guys. It's like no joke, 90% humidity and like 90 degrees Fahrenheit or like 30 plus Celsius.
That's Miami right there.
It's awful.
That is Miami.
That's true. It is like inner Florida. I've been to Orlando during the summer and it was similar. But the monsoon season and then it rains, but the rain is just hot. It's just hot rain.
Yeah.
It's not fun.
It's a little brutal, and we were able to get through them with MeUndies. And
That's right.
The part is that if you're not happy with your first pair, it's on MeUndies. They have problem-free philosophy. If you're picking this, they've got you covered. So we got you covered as well. Summer's coming now, so be prepared with MeUndies. Get 20% off your first order plus free shipping at MeUndies.com/PowerSpike. That's MeUndies.com/PowerSpike for 20% off plus free shipping. MeUndies, comfort from the outside in. Thanks to our friends over at MeUndies with, again, the ball caddy. That was good.
As a golf fan, how do you feel about that phrase?
I was thinking, I was like, okay, it's underwear with golf balls in it. And I mean, I just moved. Never mind. I was going. I almost risked it all for no reason. Thank you, MeUndies. Let's go on next topic. It's time for a segment that you know and love. It's keeper kick time. It's keeper kick time for the top of the LCS. And yes, we're talking about Cloud9 or TL, especially after their most recent bout, a close 2-1, could have been 2-0, but let's get into it. Cloud9 TL, who's the better team? By the end of the year. The better team by the end of the year. There we go. I
had to bring this back because Yamato and Dom hand waved my fraud alert for Cloud9 last week, which was, I felt, very inappropriate for such an incredibly fraudulent team. Apparently you guys didn't feel that way, but no. I think Cloud9, obviously you could say, well, the strength of schedule has been affecting everybody. Actually, Team Liquid played FlyQuest in week number 1, so it has affected certain teams more than others. But Cloud9, my problem with Cloud9 is that they have looked bad in a lot of their wins. I haven't liked a lot of their first picking of Nidalee. They've basically relied on teams inting into them a lot of the time. So I thought Team Liquid was going to take it this week. So I definitely keep Team Liquid here. I am so much higher on them than Cloud9. I mean, Team Liquid could have just actually stomped game 1 as well, but they decided to, do a little throwing and then a little Baron stealing to get the game back in their favor.
Yeah.
It was a wild game. Yeah. I actually really liked maybe the first 10 minutes of that game. I thought there was some really good cross mapping and teams taking it, each team kind of taking advantage of each other in interesting lane swap situations. So I thought that the first 10 minutes was good, but after that it got pretty darn sloppy. And I think if Team Liquid, I was really surprised Team Liquid lost that game. And I think that if they had actually just kind of played to their win conditions that they had done in the mid game where they were setting up Ivor brushes and using their range, that they would have, actually won that instead of hard committing in a fight where if they lost the fight, they would instantly lose the game. But we saw a nice bounce back. And I mean, especially I think the last couple games were incredibly convincing. Impact continues to be amazing for this team. I think Thanatos is incredibly disjointed with the
Oh,
rest
yeah.
of Cloud9, both on his like teleport plays, even just communicating with his teammates when his TP is up. Because a lot of times in Cloud9's other matches, they'll just be trying to fight when his TP is down and the other enemy TP is up, and they'll just be going in on these and losing fights as a result. So I've been really actually very down on C9. Not when I'm saying they're like, bottom of the league, but this team should be way better than they are. And I think their teamwork and, even individual ability leaves a lot to be desired a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think that Cloud9, I mean, I agree some of their wins haven't looked great. And I think that also Thanatos is a type of player where you can tell that he's still lost after lane phase. You can watch him play and it's like his lane phase is really good. He looks mega Korean up until like 15 minutes. And then he starts looking extremely American. So it's like things just change. But overall, I think Cloud9 played at least game one better than expected, because a lot of these situations, like when they're turning these team fights, they're turning team fights that most teams in NA would not turn. Like somebody dies instantly and they're recognizing, okay, even though it's a 4v5 in the immediate, X amount of skills are on cooldown, so we actually win, and they're finding angles to like re-engage and stuff. And that's something that I don't see many NA teams doing. Like a lot of times it's like, if you engage a fight well enough and somebody dies, it's like, all right, fight is losing. It's 4v5, back off. But I felt like Cloud9 actually challenged Team Liquid in a lot of those fights where teams just haven't been doing that. And I do think TL is like by far the best team in North America. Like it was essentially a 3-0. They should have won game one. They made a really bad macro decision at the end. I thought that the game was pretty high quality. I actually disagree, where I think the fighting I thought was pretty decent from both teams. Like small mistakes here and there, but I mean, like I'm kind of used to watching that all over the world, so like I don't consider that like too bad. I thought the early game was high level, like the map trading and stuff. I'm like, okay, like people are
the crossfire was very good in the early game.
Yeah, so I was actually pretty happy with the game overall. I mean, there was moments where like Ivern stole Baron, but like I understand Cloud9 finishing the Baron in that circumstance, because Ivern is one of the worst Baron stealing champions in the game. It just does 0 damage, besides for the spite. So they thought like they didn't have the ability to zone him there. If you look at like their champions in that situation, no one can actually zone the Ivern.
They also had no engage ults left either after the fight. So.
Yeah, so like them trying to force the Baron, just relying on the fact that it's not a 50-50, right? It's like a 60-40 or something like that if you combo your damage in with the brand. So they ended up losing it there, but I was fine with that play. I think the biggest mistake that I saw in the game was TL trying to end the game top when they had free Baron.
Oh,
like,
not taking the Baron and then denying
if they literally
soul,
just Baron base,
bad.
they could take Baron base, deny soul, and then they would just win the game.
Yeah.
They'd be able to play on 2 lanes and win the game. But instead
okay.
of doing
they didn't get it in Hib. They just got it into turret. It was worth.
Well, I mean, they got an inhib turret. The problem was that, I mean, the reason why they lost this game, right, is they got the inhib turret, but then they didn't have enough time to do Baron because they would have lost soul.
Yep.
So they had to walk across the map, and they needed to deny the soul. And the big problem about doing this that people don't understand is that they just want to fight, right? Like they just want to fight. They'd almost ace them. They'd almost like they were trying to end the game off of it. When you have to walk back across the map, the people that got gold from that fight, so like the Ivern, the Varus, the people that don't have TP, they don't get to base. So the next fight that they go into it without using the gold that they've generated in the last fight. And if you saw, once they died, the Varus had like Wit's End, like he bought Wit's End when he was dead and like the game was over, and Dawn Core was purchased by the Ivern. And obviously, like they didn't fight the fight well, and if they fought the fight better, like, you know, the items may not have mattered. But in general, this is like the big problem with being on the map too long, is you destroy your tempo, then you're not able to base, and then the next fight that you should have a bigger advantage in because you just want to fight has less of an advantage. So I think that's that was like a really big mistake from TL. Like I rarely see them do that, to be honest. Like they just really misjudge their ability to end.
Yeah, that feels like the type of thing that Coach Spawn puts into them about tempo, which is why they're one of the best lane swapping teams in the world.
Yep.
So
they're excellent at lane swapping. They're really good at lane swapping. I mean, the one game that like people forget it, but like the one game they won against T1, they like out lane swapped T1 and they just carried that advantage throughout the entire game at EWC, carried it throughout the entire game and just like beat a T1 team. Like that's That's so rare for North America. Like if you've watched North America over the years, they don't like teams don't win like that. Like
Yeah,
they don't.
it's not NA winning. It's LCK, whatever the representative, losing. That was the first time where that in a long time it felt like, wow, we straight up won.
Yep, definitely.
But also
Yappa,
for Cloud9, I'm sick of a lot of their drafts that they're running too. Like the draft in game 3, like what the fuck? Like they didn't learn any lesson about being outranged. Like I fucking hate the blind Yone into this. It just feels so bad. They actually just have no recourse in this draft. Like if they try and go in, they just get countered by Mykles, and that's it. They can't fight ever. So you have to rely on winning like your solos super hard and then getting pushed in the side lanes, and didn't end up happening. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the way Cloud9 is playing right now.
yeah, I think another thing that jumped out to me was APA. Yappa getting gapped in game 1. That was interesting. Like I feel like I haven't seen him have like performances like
himself in some ways.
like just walking into a bush, dying, losing the 1v1 on bot side, losing the 1v1 mid, then losing the 1v1 bot side. It was cool to see JoJo be able to pull out the Zeri and perform like that and be like, okay, here's the mid 80 dimension that we've seen across, the world. He's able to play that proficiently as well. The Ash Lulu? The Lulu I thought was Ash Lulu.
I hate the Lulu.
That was weird. And, Vulcan's your engaged guy. Play that. And I didn't like the Lulu, but it was still
the Lulu just can't do anything because you're not going to get any value out of polymorph or wild growth into the poke composition that Liquid's throwing at you, because Maokai is only going to be used for peel, and Mordekaiser is just going to ult somebody and then you can't do shit.
I mean, it's a horrible pick. It's also bad in the lane. Like you don't want to be picking Lulu into Karma. Like that is just not a good lane. So the reason why
what happened to Ashheimer, man? Where'd it go? Bring it back.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's pretty bad. I mean, the Ezreal Karma is just too strong in that situation. Also, like you have to think about why people are even picking Karma. Like the Karma is literally only being picked there because they're like, we want somebody that can go on Mykles like that, and they just try to figure out like what's the best champion that we can go here that can just build a Mykles easily and play out the game. And Karma, and the reason why you want a Mykles is because enemy team has Ashe, Sejuani. Both ults get giga countered by Mykles, right? So the idea there is we want a Karma because it's good with Ezreal. Ezreal Karma is actually a good lane, and we're trying to like get a champion that is really strong with Mykles on our team, right? Like that's the idea. And then you look at the other side, and it's like you get a Lulu, and it's like, why do we have this Lulu? This Lulu is like bad with our champs. Like it's not like normally with Sejuani. Normally with Sejuani, you want something else that can follow up the engage, or you want something like Sejuani Braum, where if you ever get on them, they're just perma CC'd. You want some type of like combo here, but they just didn't get like the Lulu was so out of place. They pretty much lost the draft on the Lulu super hard.
Yeah. R5 Lulu, by the way.
R5 Lulu, yeah. I mean, you can't have an R5 where you giga grief the game. Like you can have an R5 pick that's like not amazing. Like people always made fun of R5 Renekton, but if you have like an R5 Renekton into a matchup where the Renekton is fine, he's still going to be useful throughout the game. Like, it's still a champion that you can ignore. Like you can play weak side, whatever. Like you can make an R5 Renekton work, but an R5 like counter pick Lulu in a game like this, it will literally lose you the whole game. You cannot be using your counter pick to just ruin your entire game.
Going back to Thanatos, because I know that we brought him up at the beginning, it's like, and he's not, it literally feels like just not enough time. Right, and hopefully maybe he gets.
They had a 3-week break, dGon. Why couldn't they fix this problem?
Because he's moved over to America, has to shoot all the content.
He has a Korean-speaking coach now.
Yeah, but the players don't speak Korean consistently. Like I wonder how do you get the most out of it with time that's left?
It literally doesn't take that much time for pro players to learn how to do in-game speak in English, man. And like any nuanced points can be explained by Reaper in Korean. There is something else going on here. If anything,
he just doesn't know how to play out the game. Like, I mean, it's like this is the thing is, I can't know this for sure, but I would assume that the level of top LCS is better than LCK Challenger when it comes to macro. Like, I think you get a lot of like mechanical talent out of LCK challengers, but I would assume that the macro in a second tier region is almost never good, right? Like that's just how it works. Like same thing with LDL, whatever. So he knows how to lane. Like that's probably what he's got all the practice on. He's played a bunch of solo queue, whatever. He probably did 1v1s with like the Dom 1 main team top laner when he was when he was like an understudy, when he was a second team player. But outside of lane, he just does it. He hasn't grasped that part of the game. I mean, we've seen people not know how to play outside of lane for like, I mean, Summit is still playing this game competitively, right? So like we've seen people just never know how to play outside of lane. And that's something that not everyone grasps. I mean, one of the biggest compliments, or one of the biggest things that's made me think APA is an actual talent, is his ability to learn from that last MSI. The fact that he went to this MSI and he actually learned how to side lane from playing against Caps. Yeah, I mean, I just feel like the fact that APA learned how to side lane from playing against Caps, and he was like able to reverse engineer, oh, like this is what Caps is doing. This is why this guy is 30 CS ahead of me, like 50 CS ahead of me every single time. People that play against Caps in Europe still haven't figured out how to side lane like him. Like when it comes to Europe, like the people that were good at side laning, it was like Caps was really insane at side laning always. Perks was actually really good at side laning. You could say like his mid lane, his 1v1 mid laning was not the strength of his game. It was that once he would go into side lane, he would just generate a lead because he knew how to, like which waves he could push, and he would always just squeeze an advantage there. Jizuke was somebody who was also really good at side laning. And it feels like the people that are left within the LEC aren't able to grasp this from Caps. So like the fact that APA has learned how to do that shows how good he is. And that's something that not every player is able to like figure out. Like it's something that takes a lot of experience, and you have to really have that ability to analyze the game outside the game and then be in the game with the lack of vision and everything, and then be able to like make the connections of, oh, this is like the wave that I need to push. Oh, this wave is actually the one that's too dangerous. One of the huge parts about side laning that I don't think Thanatos has fully grasped is like when it's okay to die. Because there's a lot of waves where, I mean, you see it all the time. Like Zeus obviously solo dies sometimes when it's horrible, but a lot of times he'll actually solo die when it's completely fine. It's like, nice, they sent like 3 people top, I don't have a shutdown. It's like 2 minutes before Drake. They just lose so much fucking tempo by challenging me on this wave that it's not worth it. And you just like tool them around in the situation. If you start getting ganked, it's like, oh, you just make it hard. You E the other direction. You walk like through their tier 2. You stall that timer and really give your team a big advantage off the fact that enemy team is ganking you. So like all those small things, I mean, it's very hard to learn. Takes a while. He doesn't have it yet. It's like left to be seen. I don't know if there's any formula for which players are actually able to like grasp this type of mid-game side laning and understanding this, and which players don't. Like Alfari is an example of somebody who never was really good at the side laning. Bubbo is somebody who actually figured it out pretty quickly. That's one of Bubbo's biggest strengths. It's kind of like random for me when I'm analyzing a player whether or not they'll actually make that jump from being really good laner to then be able to like carry it throughout the entire game.
Well, I think APA was also set up because of APA with the champion pool that he adopted as a solo queue player. You know, coming into the scene and being a Ziggs, Aurelion Sol, Taliyah player, like he was always going to be looking at the side lanes and having generally good map awareness to use their kits effectively. So I think it has set him up for success in this regard as well.
Yeah,
I think it's different though, because like on those, because in solo queue, I mean, I would say it probably didn't help him that much, because in solo queue a lot of times you're just like moving, like you just push the wave and then you just move first. Like those champions is kind of like either roam or Ziggs will like ult the fight, whereas the champions that he's playing now, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying is that when you're playing things like Tristan, Corki, and stuff like that, there's a lot more nuance in how you actually squeeze out like farm and turret damage is the big one. Because when you watch APA, when you've been watching APA in like the last like 6 months of his play, think about it when he's getting tier 2s. Like that's what I'm thinking about. Sure. Is like he's playing Tristana and he's getting like a tier 2 where like a lot of people would push the wave and back off, or they wouldn't push that extra wave. Like he understands like preemptively where the play is going to be from the enemy team, and it's a lot of time it's kind of like a feel thing. Like you can like get the steps down, but then also you have to know like, can they really gank me here? Like will they actually be sending people in the situation? And like times where he challenges it, he's actually getting the tier 2s and stuff like that. And he's progressing the game. And that's how you get big leads in competitive play. It's like if you're squeezing a tier 2 here, a tier 2 there, that's the 3K gold lead going into like the fight for your Tristana that's going to like win you the entire game. And I feel like that is something that was just a recent development, right? And when you watch really good players, I mean, it's like the thing that I keep on saying, Caps is best quality. When you watch players that are really good at that, it gives their team such a massive edge, because it's like you go into the game even, but if the person is ahead at all, like if the game is even but this player is ahead at all, they can just make the game feel super impossible to play for the enemy team by just constantly pushing in the waves, constantly looking for that chip damage on turrets, getting tier 2s, drawing people. Like, it's a whole problem for the enemy team that's hard to deal with.
That's been the core of Chovy's gameplay for the last couple of years too, in
Yep.
terms of just getting incremental advantages from side laning. So
Yeah, he's really good at it. He's probably the best at it out of anyone.
So with that said, we're keeping TL. There's no way Cloud9 are a better team by the end of the split.
Look, I think Cloud9 is really fraudulent. Like, I don't think this team has a hope of beating TL in terms of playoffs unless we see some massive changes very, very quickly to their gameplay. And I think this team's going to perform very poorly internationally as well. I think unless we see some mega ass changes, this team is going to get absolutely rolled at Worlds.
All right, there you have it. Sorry, Cloud9 fans.
they look like an NA team. You know, the thing is, like, TL gives me some hope that they could be better. You know, like they look different than a normal NA team. Like TL is giving me like when G2 goes international, like those types of like vibes. Like not like the G2 is making world finals. I'm talking about like this recent iteration of G2 where it's like, oh, they actually have something there that I could see challenging teams around the world. C9 just looks like an NA team that something will fall apart. You know, like they'll just go and Thanatos won't win his lane as hard, or they'll just like be behind and they don't have abilities to come back. Like, you need to have a lot of depth to your game.
Or they'll have a
well
janky draft and just get destroyed.
Yeah. Where I feel like TL has systems in place and like fallback plans in games. Like, it looks like their game is way more nuanced.
I love their drafting. I love their drafting, honestly. Like, you know, they always have like some fun little twist, I feel like, prepared for opposing teams. And that has been also low key, you know, an advantage of just having these 2 matches a week, not having super weeks. It feels like teams are, you know, can prepare very effectively for playing into each other. And it feels like TL has taken the biggest advantage of that. I mean, the problem with Cloud9 is they have one coach, guys. I keep hearing this nonsense of like, what about High, Monty? I'm like, High isn't coaching this team. He's a manager, guys.
Yes.
But people get fooled because he's on stage. Do you know why he's on stage, guys? Because there's no other coach to put on stage with Reaper, because Cloud9 doesn't have a coaching staff outside of a head coach. They spent all their money on Jojo Pion, guys, all of it. And now they have no money to pay coaches. And they don't, you know, they used to, Cloud9 used to, you're thinking of the old Cloud9, where it's like, oh, they used to have all these coaches and here's their academy roster and their coaches and they're doing internal scrims. It's all gone, guys. It's literally just like Reaper one-manning this. So if you compare that to like FlyQuest or Team Liquid, there is a huge difference in availability of resources.
Yeah, they thought Mythy was so bad that they're like, we need as few coaches as possible. Like, coaches are just a detriment to the team. Like, please get as few people here as possible.
I think that was part of the problem. Is like at the start of this year, it was also just Mythy, and they replaced him with just Reaper.
Well, it's like Veigar V2 is there as well, right?
Yeah, in Scandinavia or wherever.
Yeah, I mean, he's on Discord.
He's the guy in the box. And then FlyQuest pick up Mythy, and now FlyQuest, I guess they're still the second best team. They've solidified a little more. Yeah, so it looks like we'll be keeping TL as the favorites moving on forward here. If you guys have a different opinion, or I don't know. I feel like I tried to ask these guys all the different angles on how Cloud9 can get there. If you have a different angle, let us know in the comments below over on YouTube or in the chat right now over at Twitch. And while you're here, like and subscribe to all of our channels across YouTube and however you are listening to Last Free Nation. Our last episode, Monty, Dom, maybe you could help me. We were talking about players that hit this like mental plateau. Like, they hit this mental box and then they can't get over it. Do you remember which player we were talking about? I forgot who it was.
Do I remember which player we were talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. This isn't a setup. I just forgot who it was. I remember asking fans.
I mean, we talked about Chovy.
Maybe was it Chovy? But we were talking. That's what it was. We're seeing players that finally got over the hump and getting the payoff, like Chovy. What players never got that payoff? And
Oh.
so we had a couple that was what I asked. And so we had a couple in the YouTube chat from last week's episode give their opinions. Monty, I want to know, in your head, some of these players that are brilliant but never got the payoff of greatness, whether it was an LCK title or, you know, a deep run at Worlds or winning Worlds.
Or
Yeah, because that's what we saw. We got to see Chovy be able to get through it. Who's a name that comes to mind for you?
Score. I mean, Score won LCK, but I mean, Score's best shot at winning Worlds was ruined by IG in 2018. So that was a bummer.
Yep.
He did well as a coach, at least.
Yeah. We had someone put Double Lift, and the other person put Khan. Those are the two. Double Lift once he gets to Worlds. That's what they said. They said Double Lift once he got to Worlds. I think those were two good ones. I thought we'd have more, but those were the two ones that jumped on out to me. But just wanted to give the shout outs to the friends paying attention in the show and then doing the action on YouTube. We try to give the shout outs. So please continue to do so and be active. Be a part of the show for next week's episode. All right. Next up, it's time for us to tell you about another one of our sponsors that we've told you before, and it's been helpful for me here because I've had to learn a new language. And
if you're Thanatos and you just moved to North America and maybe you need to understand your teammates in game, you should use Babbel. Thanatos, This is for you. This discount's for you.
Yeah.
Nah,
Time
he
to
understands.
introduce you.
He understands.
No,
He
don't
doesn't
TP. What TP?
Also, whatever you get from Babbel, it will not teach you Jojopian language. Like Jojopian, like that's a different type of thing. So we gotta get with our friends at Babbel and we gotta make a Jojopian Cloud9 version of of Babbel, and
Zoomer.
then Zoomer Babbel. Yeah, that's actually the next step. Like we gotta get everything in there. Like we just need to feed Babbel 50 million hours of new Zoomer TikTok, and then it'll just create the perfect lesson plans for Cloud9. Holy shit.
Well, as much as Zoomer English would be great, and I'm sure Babbel could get on it, they don't have it in yet, but they do have 14 award-winning language courses, which are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee, so no pressure. And so if you're one of the 1 in 5 people that have learn a new language on your bucket list, we've got you covered here with Babbel. It's the best way to uproot your entire life into the middle of a new country and figure it out from there. Oh, wait, not that. If you're not ready for that, you can still learn a language here with Babbel. We're more than halfway throughout the year, but if you fast forward at the end of the year and you start now, you would be able to check off the list of being able to learn a new language. Again, it's been helpful for me being able to speak multiple different languages, or at least the basics there to get around, because you get to feel the warmth of the world by just simply saying thank you and then asking where the bathroom is. Usually those are my two that I want to know, like thank you and where's the bathroom. But don't take my word for it. Studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and beyond continue to prove that Babbel works. One study found using Babbel for 15 hours is equivalent to a full semester at college. And those 14 award-winning languages are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. So no pressure. So here's a limited time special deal for our listeners. Right now, you can get 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/spike. That's BABBL.com/spike to get 60% off of your subscription. Rules and restrictions may apply. But again, don't hesitate. Don't wait. Learn the language. Get connected with the world, just like what you're doing here with the best global League of Legends esports show. And get connected more with the languages of the world by using Babbel. Thanks to our friends over at Babbel.
Yeah, and this show next week, we're going to do it completely in Spanish. So if you don't download Babbel and learn Spanish for next week's episode, you're going to be completely screwed. So
that's right.
You have to get Babbel.
Be Flaming Mad Lions Koi fans only. That's the next show.
Spanish. That would be
in a way they understand.
Yeah, they are going to be muy enojado. That's how they're going to feel. Don't look that one up, kids. All right. let's go to our next topic, which is MVP time. So every year we have to vote for all pro, or we make our votes for all pro. It's always contentious. Where it's like, how do
I mean,
we
I
end up
don't.
here?
I'm blacklisted, but other people do, you know.
We still vote. We still make our opinions known, Monty. So that's what we're doing right now on here in Power Spike. It's time to vote for our MVPs in this week's Galaxy Brain Club, the major region MVPs for the regular season. Let's take a look. All right.
We're not
So
technically done with LCK or LCS yet, but we're done with LPL regular season. I mean, how does actually, I don't even know. Does LEC summer just include all of it, including the playoffs? I guess it must, right?
No, I mean, LEC summer. Yeah, LEC summer is
Including the
everything,
playoffs.
including the playoffs, but it's not season finals. Like season finals is
Right.
like there's like a year, and then there's like a
Right.
player of the split, but it's like not like a real MVP as far as I know.
Play the split player of the year, right?
There's a player of the year too. There is a player
Wait,
of the
there's
year.
a
Mickey
player of the
Mickey X
split
got it
and the
last
player of the
year.
year. Isn't the player of the split the MVP?
There's like a all pro team now that they were doing before. Let me see. Let's see if I can find it.
I think they like killed the all pro every split though.
They
It's
did
very
play.
confusing.
No, they did they do like play they do all pro, yeah, essentially. They just do like the team of the split. So they do all pro every single time, yeah.
Oh, it's just G2 every split, right? Almost.
In spring it was, well, in winter that was like when in winter, what was it? It was when Matt was doing pretty
Oh, it
well.
was the Mad Lion Boys.
And it was
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
four
yeah,
four
yeah,
Mad Lions players.
No, it was all five. In winter it was all five G2 players, all five. And then in spring it was like a mix. It was BB, Razor, Caps, Ice, and Jun. So it was a mix. And then they do summer playoffs yet? Oh, they haven't done it for summer playoffs yet. They haven't done the individual awards.
Oh, okay. Well, someone who listens to me and comments every week on the Inside and Esports, or not Inside Esports, on the Last Free Nation channel is the G2 LOL account. And so this is your time to shine. You can stump for who you think we should vote for, Mr. Or Mrs. or, you know, what should you say? Entity? The G2 LOL entity that controls it? There we go. Almost got myself out of trouble. Oh, almost like posting about mental health. God, that would have been really bad.
say one wrong word and you're just destroyed on the internet forever, dGon. That's how it works.
Yeah,
but
I know.
shout out to G2 social media, and especially the YouTube comments are just hilarious every time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways, so you know, where are we going with this? Who do we pick from G2 as the MVP? How about that? That's probably
Caps.
the real question.
Caps. I don't think there's an argument. Caps.
Yeah.
Sorry, BB. I tried.
I mean, no one else is playing consistently. Like he's literally, he just has, the only reason why they can even win the games where they're like 5k gold down is that he's like never behind mid. He's just like always ready to pop off. And like, sure, he's had some bad moments, but for LEC standards, I mean, he's by far the best player. It's a one player region, and that player is Caps.
There
I'm
you go.
interested in how
Agreed.
the G2 social media entity is going to handle this one. Now it's like not them against like the fans or them against other teams. It's them against themselves. You have to pick favorites. All right. Sorry, LEC kind of boring. Let's move to LCS. I know that they're not done yet, but
Impact.
It's Impact.
all right.
We'll get through this very quick.
Show.
Look, Impact has been incredibly good. And he's been so consistent for Team Liquid over the split. Team Liquid is heading towards being undefeated. Obviously, they've already beaten both Cloud9 and FlyQuest after this last week. Impact, now he's usually not been as good during a lot of the regular season, and he's turned it on in playoffs before, but it feels like he has been absolutely the rock of this team and put on some really impressive carry performances. So he's just been great. He's been super consistent.
All right. I don't really have another great candidate. Maybe who would be second? How about that? Who would be second here?
Inspired?
I was thinking Inspired. I think Core JJ's actually had a really good split for the most part. Like his engages have been on point. Feels like in engaged meta, he's been really effective. So I would throw his name in there.
All right. Since the LCS segment isn't going on too long, I'm going to use this time, instead of celebrating a potential MVP, to call out the ridiculousness of Quid being MVP last split, which was fucking terrible. And Inspired was robbed. And also, guys, what is so crazy to me about this? So remember, 100 Thieves, they finished second in the regular season, right? They are doing horribly. They look like complete dog shit this split. Where is the narrative, guys? In literally any pro sport ever, the entire narrative would be, what's going on with our MVP? What the hell's wrong with him? Why is he on this team? Why is this team so bad now? Nobody gives a shit. Like, why is there not more focus on why 100 Thieves and Quid are so bad within the LCS? Is it because we secretly knew they were bad the whole time, in which case Quid shouldn't have gotten the MVP?
Yes.
Yes, it was. He is such a fraudulent MVP. It is outrageous. Like, no one's up in arms about this. It literally, if you were the fucking MVP of the NBA, every week, every commentator would just be like, what's wrong with the MVP? Why is the MVP so bad? Why is this team so bad? But we all know secretly in our hearts, guys, that 100 Thieves was just always terrible and Quid never deserved it, which is why we're not talking about it. Or we're just doing a disservice to the actual narratives of this league, because it is crazy to me that there isn't more mention that Quid was MVP and his 100 Thieves team is fucking ass.
They're pretty bad.
They're not
pretty bad.
It's not the action of it. That's just a description of it. All right.
Okay. I mean, the league is ass, you know. So you
Where you want. That's where I was going. The apps have been bad. That's all I was saying. All right, let's move to LCK. Let's go to LCK. This one's short too. Well, there's a little more conversation, but still, I think short.
I think this one's more fun.
Yeah, I still think it's short. What do you
it's
go
Canyon,
first, Monty?
It's Canyon, but
really,
like, the thing is, yeah. So the thing, I think there you could say Chovy, you could say Viper, you could say Canyon. These are all, I think, pretty valid pickups. The thing about Canyon is the way that I look at, and the argument I make for Canyon's performance is that he has been kind of uniquely placed in a Canyon meta, and the team has empowered him to do Canyon things. And he has done the meta better than any other jungler within the LCK, in a sense where this was perhaps the ideal way to play the game of League of Legends. And so I do think that he is probably the most valuable player by definition as a result.
I think that there's players that, okay, so for example, the last T1 versus Gen G series, I think Owner, like, I mean, what do you want Owner to do? Like, Owner pretty much did as much as you can versus Canyon, and then, like, you know, Faker inted one time and then the game was over. I feel like, I don't know, what would FaZe need to do for you to put him in this conversation?
Let's start the FaZe Glaze. It's time to start FaZe Glaze, baby.
This is the thing.
You both start this.
This is the thing. The games where his team is playing like shit, like, FaZe carried those games. Like the Sandbox series, they're like legit losing that fucking series if FaZe doesn't like actually step up to the fucking plate and carry those games where everyone else is doing terribly. Like, those games are like fucking robberies, and the only reason they rob the games is because FaZe like pops off on Lucian, pops off on like, like Zeri. Obviously, like, the game was going much better, but like, and he entered, but the whole reason that they're winning that game too is because of him. So it's like, what does FaZe need to do for you, Monty? I mean, he's literally popping off like every game. Why do you actually hate him?
Yeah, like
I don't hate him.
Really,
I don't hate him.
I mean, he's so much better than he was before.
Also true. I think FaZe is having a wonderful split. What I hate is the FaZe narrative versus Viper, because FaZe has been basically in the passenger seats of Gen G this entire time, surrounded by greatness since the moment he stepped into this team. And he has literally had the easiest fucking job to do. And like, I think the glazing of FaZe, the pazing, if you will, is too much. It's too much. It's just too fucking much. And he has had some great games. Like, I don't think he's a bad player. I just do not at any point believe that he is the MVP of this split compared to other members of his team. It's like I didn't believe that Lehens was the MVP, was the fucking MVP of spring last year compared to Keen or BDD.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Canyon, like from a jungle standpoint, I feel like Canyon is getting overrated. Like his team has the best laners. He has like the most stable laning, and there's a lot of games where he's kind of just like AFK. Like he's kind of AFK, and he gets away with like being AFK because his team is so good. Like
I think you're forgetting a lot of the matches earlier in this split where he was just like absolutely dominating.
Yeah.
Zyra games were fucking
Zyra
great.
that was him. He made the meta. Like I agree with that.
Okay, but that, like it's like he just realized that Zyra was broken before other people realized Zyra was broken. Like that was really what it was. Like
MVP.
Everyone realized Zyra was broken. Like he just realized you could clear it. Like
his pathing was better. Like his timings were better than other players.
That's the thing. There's no pathing. What pathing? Zyra has no pathing. Like you literally just clear you full clear your jungle at 252.
You just walk into bot side. That's fair.
Yeah, and you walk into bot side, and like that was literally like the kills he was getting. Like he was like walk into bot side at like
255.
Yeah, he's 255. He's bot lane, and they just didn't realize Zyra could clear that fast and stuff. And like throughout the split, I feel like this is another thing. It's like I care more about like how you're showing up in the big matches in LCK, and I feel like these matches, like dude, I don't know, like Owner gets done so dirty by his team. I think Owner is maybe like one of the most underrated players in LCK. I think he might just be the most underrated player because when his team does well, it's always because of him. When they won at EWC, it's because he's like the best jungler in the tournament. He's just smurfing in all those games. When he plays well, his team his team will just win. But like his team, when they lose, when they lose, he will play well and he won't be able to do anything because they have to have him play well on a very specific style. Like he has to do everything for the team. He has to be like engaging. He has to be first on the objectives. He has to just path well. He can't make mistakes. Like if he plays a Lilia game and he plays an almost perfect Lilia game versus Gen G, he can't win. Like he has to, like he's not even allowed to play the champions that are broken. Because are
you making an argument for Owner here? Like my counter argument.
I'm not making an argument for him being MVP because I don't think you can give him MVP because his team is just not good enough. Like you can't give someone on T1 MVP right now. I don't think. I think his team is just underperforming too much. And like when you compare a team that has like in any sport, if there's a team that has like that's 35-1 compared to another team that's what like 19-16 or whatever T1 is, it's just there's just different levels to it. So you like you're not going to be able to give him MVP. But I do actually think that he is the most underrated player on T1. Like this guy plays well consistently and it just like no one cares. Like when he plays Faker gets the credit.
I'm going to push back on the like BNK Fear X versus Gen G series because one thing that Gen G does, especially in some of these like against easier opponents and in game 2 when they're already up 1-0, is they do, we get to see Keen playing the Rise into Rumble again, but like this is just like shit that they do, which is like let Rumble through and then try and have Keen play Rise into it. This is just who they are. And there was a lot of happy gaming in that series. And ultimately, yes, hilariously, Pays should have been the only player on Gen G getting kills in that game because his pentakill actually got robbed at the end by Lehens, and he should have gotten all 9 kills.
It was actually an accident, though. That was his area getting the kill.
Yeah.
It was very funny. It was very funny. But my point is that Pays should have had all of the kills for Gen G in that game. But I don't think that's reflective of Pays getting MVP because what had to happen? They had to basically just flip the Gen G switch and they have a nearly perfect engage at the Baron based around Kenyon and Lehens, on their engage. And it's like, that is Gen G's team effort right there. So like, Pays' stats are
a perfect engage where
padded.
like Canyon's playing Maokai, like he's playing Maokai and he like sends it. Like the thing that so I'm a huge Canyon. I'm a huge Canyon fanboy. He's like one of my favorite. I think he is my favorite jungler of all time. He's my jungle goat. But there's a lot of games where he is AFK. There's a lot of games. Like if you think about the game versus Dom 1, like the game that they should have lost versus Dom 1, game 2, I believe. The first time they played. The second time they played, game 1, he just did nothing, and like the Lee Sin's all over the map for Dom 1 in that game. Yeah. And you look at like the game versus T1, this first Nidalee game. I feel like there's a lot of games where Canyon is getting away with not doing anything in the game. Like he is actually just like AFK farming, and then they just end up winning because they're a better team. And like to be an MVP as a jungler, I think you got to show me like more than that. Like you can't just be like the jungler on the best team getting so many wins by just like farming it out. Like think about Owner's job. Owner's job is so much harder. Like you say Paze's job is like way easier than like somebody else's job, like Viper's job. I mean, how much easier is Canyon's job? Like when Canyon is playing with literally like lanes that are always stable, he plays with the most stable lanes in the entire league. Compare that to like what Owner plays with, bro. Owner goes through fucking hell every single game. His mid is getting solo killed left and right in like the worst fucking matchups. Zeus solo dies 75 times a game. Carrier randomly will just like get caught. Like he'll just like have ADD and just like walk into the enemy team and get caught. And then like if Owner ever makes a mistake, they're like, he's shit. Bench Owner. Like they just like everyone just starts like freaking out like about like how he's just like they need a better jungler on the team. I don't know, man. Like I think Owner has played like I think this is one of like Owner's best individual splits. Like if you compare this to like when he's had bad splits, summer of last year, for example, when Faker was gone. I feel like this is just a way better version of himself. I mean, EWC obviously doesn't count for this, but like I thought he played well there too. I just feel like Owner has been consistently good for a while, and it's like he just never gets the credit. When his team does well, it's always somebody else that gets the credit.
Yeah.
Like he was the best player at World. Like think about it. He was the best player at Worlds. Like I think he was the MVP of Worlds. I think Owner was the MVP of Worlds last year. And no one could talk about anything besides for Faker. They could only talk about Faker winning another title. No one could give Owner credit at all for being the best player in the entire tournament. He was the best player on a team that won Worlds at like one of what people consider like one of the most competitive Worlds ever. Like JDG was a super team, like whatever. Everyone hypes up the Faker play. Everyone hypes up the Faker play in that game 3, but no one hypes up the Owner route play when they're down 3K, like at the Drake. No one hypes up that play.
That's because Worlds was his trial of grasses, and he became a Witcher after that. I don't know if you've noticed, Dom. He actually wears a witch. His hair turns gray, and he wears a Witcher medallion now. He just turned into a Witcher at Worlds.
Okay, respect. All I'm saying is that guy is good as fuck. Like he's
so
really
because
good.
of that, Canyon can't win. Start the Paze Glaze. We're pazing.
No, Canyon just doesn't like. I don't know. Like, there's so many games. Like, so pretty much, I can tell what's happening with Gen G. Like, Canyon has in his mind like where because his team is better, he doesn't need to like take risks. Like, because his team is just gonna win out games normally because they're better. He's taking like the very low risk option, which has always been kind of like a Canyon thing, like efficiency. Like low risk, decent reward plays. Like that's been his style, which I think is good. I just think that there's games where like I feel like he's going too far into that, where there's like times where it's like, okay, now you're actually doing nothing, bro. Like you're actually doing nothing in this game. You're AFK farming the entire time. So that's my criticism of Canyon.
Who would you so then is Paze the MVP? Who would your MVP vote go, Dom?
I mean, I would probably just give it to Chovy because I actually think that Chovy is the most valuable player in the league. Like, I'll probably just give it to Chovy for that reason. But I think that like my point is I would probably have Paze in the conversation over Canyon in my mind. Like, I think Paze has played a better split given the circumstances he's been in than Canyon has, and I think Chovy is just the best player in the league. So like, I don't think that
I think Paze is the most glazed janitor player I've ever seen. His job is cleanup, and he does the cleanup well.
No, not well. The best, the fastest player to hit 1,000 kills. You know, I know those stats are like, well, it's because he's on a great team.
Congratulations to Chovy for supercharging the fastest player to hit 1,000 kills. Well done, Chovy. Well done.
I guess I do have the vote. I'm not sure if I have a vote, but I think for me it's Chovy, Paze, Canyon. It's Chovy, Paze, Canyon, Viper 4 probably, but Viper's fallen off a little bit too hard lately. His Ezreal has been immaculate, so good.
So what's gonna happen, guys? I know how this story goes.
Okay,
Lehens is MVP.
Oh God. Oh God.
I know how this goes. Lehens is MVP.
That Ornn game he played was so bad, actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. That was
a horrible
really
game.
I'm going to all right. Here's what I'm gonna do. Just for everyone, and this is the cool part of now being on the broadcast. I'm gonna try to find whoever the power at B is and ask, what is the voting criteria? How am I supposed to vote? and ask. So I'm gonna try to ask the Korean casters. I'll ask obviously my coworkers, but then I'll start going up the ladder. Do I ask comp ops? You know, the referee from Worlds? He's here. He's here at LCK. I see him at the lunch tables every day. I'll ask him. I'm like, hey, do you know the criteria? And he's gonna be like, why are you asking me? But I'm gonna ask around to be like,
Hey,
how are
can
we
you ask
supposed
him a
to?
question for me? Ask
I
him
don't-
how
I
he
don't
got
know.
so good at grabbing balls.
All
Ask him
right.
that.
Yeah,
please.
Okay,
he
nice.
probably has MeUndies, and he is like, well, mine are pretty good.
Yeah,
So
he has no
but I'm-
slingshot.
he is indeed a ball caddy. All right.
right.
I hope. Okay. Yeah. Anyways, let's go. All right. Let's move to LPL. Who is the LPL MVP? I think this one, again, regular season, including like the promotions and stuff.
I want to hear Monty's first.
For LPL, sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Yes, for LPL.
This one's tough, man, because like some of the performers, I think in the initial stage in the placements, like both we saw some really like bad performances from players that then got really good in the later stages. And then we also saw some good
Just say Tarzan.
performances.
Just say Tarzan for that first one.
I
He
mean,
became
Scout?
so good, actually.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Like the weird thing is that Tarzan has been really good recently, and so has Scout. Obviously, like Weibo bouncing back in a big way from their disappointing performance. Like they actually overtook anyone's legend who they struggled with in the placements, right? And so if you were looking at placements, you might be like, oh man, like Shanks was great, or but now you're looking at this, and do I ignore the placements? I think this one's actually super hard. I think I still go with Shanks because he's been, I guess, the most even. Kanavi's been good.
Yeah, this one's so unique because of the narrative of all the teams based on the random, and it was random, strength of schedules that a lot of these teams had. Like this was, when I think about LPL, I think about the different checkpoints we had and how we felt about them.
Yeah.
I think,
'Cause
Dom, you
I
called
feel
it,
like
like you
Shanks-
called a lot of them, but
I feel like Shanks is more like most improved player. Like, do I really think he's MVP? That's the problem. And especially with anyone's Legends performance in like the Ascend group, I think, God, it's so tough. And like, you know, Kanavi has also been good, but JDG didn't do that well. And then like you want to talk about LNG, but Scout only did well after. So I guess Bin might be in there. I was thinking about this before the show, and I was struggling. I was struggling. I think.
It's
mean,
really
Top Esports-
hard if you consider placements. So like the way that I do it
it's
is
really hard.
I don't care about placements really because it's like
Okay, well
if-
then if you don't care about placements, then like Scout and Tarzan have to be up there then.
yeah, Tarzan post placements, I think he's been like insane again. Like he was horrible at the beginning of placements. He was like
terrible.
So
it was
bad.
like he was like disgustingly bad. But it's like if you look at Tarzan, so think about this: he was disgustingly bad, and now he's tied for the most MVPs of the split. Like, and he was horrible. And the thing about Tarzan, I'm not gonna make so I have somebody else. Like if I were to actually put my MVP, I actually think the most valuable player has low key been Cream. I think Cream has been so giga consistent and good, but he just won't get credit. Like a lot of times, like TN is looking good, but it's like because Cream has perma pressure mid. Like Cream is playing like every matchup pretty well. When Lucian came in, he started practicing it. He started playing it well immediately. He had a different Lucian than everyone else. I think Cream is actually like really insane, but I'm obviously biased towards him because that's my boy. But the thing about Tarzan is like to finish the Tarzan point.
yeah,
This is how you know a player has like insane aura in a series or aura in games in general is like if you think about what champions have been like permaban versus him in different series here throughout this Ascend stage. It's like you've had, okay, this guy's too good at Nidalee. We have to ban Nidalee, right? Like teams, like he plays one Nidalee game, we have to ban it the rest of the series, 1, 2, 3. Then you think about, then he plays Sejuani, and his Sejuani is clean as fuck. It's like one of the best Sejuanis. Like, you first pick Sejuani, they'll just play it with like Renekton or Breathe will play whatever champion. It's like the best Sejuani. They have to ban that. Maokai, 1, 2, 3 getting banned. Lilia, 1, 2, 3 getting banned. Brand 1, 2, 3 getting banned. He's had like 5 different champions that people have felt in different series you need to 1, 2, 3 ban against this guy. In a meta where like a lot of times you can trade junglers, right? Like you can trade Sejuani for Maokai if you want to have like the tankier junglers. You can trade, you know, Brand for Zyra. You can trade Nidalee for Brand Zyra. You can trade Lilia for Nidalee. Like you can trade all these picks, but it's like Tarzan has been so insane on those picks. So like if you're doing the entire split MVP, like the entire whatever, the entire like both stages, you probably have to give it to somebody like Bin, like one of the safer options, I think. Maybe, like, I don't think Ruler's had a good split. I know people love Ruler. I don't think he deserves it. He's somebody who's going to be in that conversation. Tien is somebody who actually, like, he's in that conversation. Like, Tien has had a bunch of good games, but, like, I just don't actually think Tien is the most valuable player. Like, Tien is playing with really good lanes, and he has, like, a lot of freedom to play the game the way he wants to every single time. So, I like... If you're going to take one player, right? Like if you think about this, Weibo made it to top 4. They made it to top 4 and they only have like one, they have 1 or 2 players that you'd consider top 4 in their role, right? Like it's either Tarzan or Tarzan and Light, but you can't put any of the other players even close to that. Breathe is a massive liability. That guy is just straight up bad. So like, that's a pretty MVP performance from Tarzan. I mean, he has been Thanos again in regular season after the placements. Like it just is what it is. As Karthus has been good too. Like he's literally playing everything, bro. Like he plays everything at the top, at the highest level. It's like that's kind of just MVP status.
It is true. Again, like if you toss out the summer placements, then it does make a lot of sense. All the other teams above him in the standings definitely have more higher tier players on them, right? Like, you know, Gala has been performing amazingly on LNG. Many members of BLG have been performing super well. Knight's been better since his like kind of terrible summer placement series. Elk has been good again. So I do think it is, if you're looking at purely standout, it's probably Tarzan. If you're looking at
I don't trust
top of
Elk,
the table,
I'm so disappointed with BLG's bot lane, actually. I feel like their bot lane is just like they just don't know how to lane anymore. There's so many mistakes that I see from like Elk and on, whereas before their whole identity was like winning the game through like bot and just smashing bot every single game. So I'm out on Elk. I mean, there's some games that he carries and stuff, but there's way too many games that he just like ints with on. Like him and on will just make the game so much harder all the time for no reason. And that's the reason why they lose game 1 of like every series. Like they're playing bad in game 1, even though the series versus FPX that they ended up winning, they fucking griefed that early game. Like they should have lost that game. FPX just threw. I just don't trust this team at all. I think this team is I don't trust them right now with how they're playing. I think they'll win, but I don't trust them as like you are a top team from the region. Like you've got to start playing at a higher level consistently if you want to be like
they're gonna win they're gonna win playoffs though.
They're gonna win playoffs, but it's not like a win playoffs where I feel like they're as good as they were when they won playoffs. I mean, look, this is my prediction. If they do play better in playoffs and they just like clean it up and they're dominating teams the way they did before, like they should win playoffs. But they should win playoffs because the other teams are not going to be good enough to beat them, rather than in spring, they just like asserted their will. Like, even though was the finals 3-1 or something, it felt like they would never lose. Like, it felt like BLG could never lose that playoff series. Whereas in other regions, it felt way more competitive, you know, like between the top teams. Like, for example, in LCK, like Gen GT won that series, you could see it going another way on a different day. For LPL, it was just like BLG just ran everything the entire time. And if you just think about this, like, last split in game score, they were 30-5 in game score. And then you look at LPL this split, and in game score, what are they just in this stage in the Ascend group? So this is only half the split. They're 15-7. They have more losses in the Ascend group than they had in the whole previous split. And this is like,
And they would have played all of these teams before, guys. So that is actually, you know, for those of you guys, well, they were only playing against the good teams. Yeah, they were only playing against the good teams. But they would have played against all of these good teams in the last split as well, the same number of times.
Exactly. Then if you consider, and then if you add in their 11-3 in the summer placements, their group was LGD, WE, RNG. That is like one of the weakest groups you could have in the placements. And they lost 3 games in the summer placements as well. So they do actually have double the losses this split than they did last split.
Damn. All right. Well, I feel like this
It also
format.
it does feel like Billy also like they turn it on for game 3 a lot of the time, but like in their losses, like they've split a lot of series in the first 2 games in weird ways. But when they actually like get into game 3, it does feel like the hammer comes down a little bit for them.
And they also just draft the way they want to draft, regardless of meta. In like game 3s, they'll like do the Callisto Renata bot dive bullshit, and they'll just like play the abusive lanes. But the problem is that like the meta right now, like when you play these even lanes, when you're trading like Leona for Nautilus or like Rel for whatever, like Alistar or Leona into Broad, it just doesn't feel like they have an advantage, like a distinct advantage in these lanes 2v2 the way they used to. Like they'll int lanes in the most creative ways that I've ever seen. So, yeah.
I do think if you're to get back to the MVP, I do think if you're combining both, I would say Bin has probably been overall the most consistent player. And then like if you're looking for the guy who is most different in terms of skill level from his team, and you're only counting the summer season and not placements, like Tarzan and Scout are way up there.
Boom.
So
There you have it. Those are MVPs across the leagues. Again, the closest one I think being LPL here, and then for LCK, pick who you want from Gen G, whether you're a Pace Glazer or not. Sorry,
Lehens.
and it ends up being Lehens. That'd be nuts. And then who do we have? We had Caps and Impact over for the Western leagues. Let us know who your MVPs are of your leagues, or whoever you think the MVPs should be across all the leagues. That was an episode, y'all. 2 hours in the books, plus minus 20 minutes of waiting. It was only 20 minutes this time. Not too bad. Not too bad. Thank you to all of our sponsors and friends for supporting the show. Again, if you haven't already, head on over to Last Free Nation on YouTube, at Last Free Nation Culture, Last Free Nation Sports. We've got all the content here for you, for your drive at work, for your train ride to work, or at home, for something to put on while you're eating dinner. We got you covered across the spectrum here. So thank you so much for watching. Dom's going to be on his break. Which bangers are you watching this week, Monty?
Probably not any until Friday at this point in time.
Wrong. Hanwha Life and Bro. What are you talking about? The upset is there.
If it happens, man.
Do you think Fox wins the games versus Dom1?
I don't
Probably.
think so.
I think they could. I think they can take a game. I think they
lose 1-2 in the series. I think they get a game versus Dom1.
We have to do our predictions. And
Preds.
I think there were a couple of people that picked BNK. Fox, Fearx.
Kwangdong KT. Look, there are a lot of in LCK. There are a lot of like very consequential. I'm not going to call them bangers necessarily, but there are a lot of very consequential matches because if Kwangdong beats KT may not make playoffs, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, the opposite is true as well. If KT beat Kwangdong, then they have to play BNK Fearx for their playoff life. It's like playoff starts now for them. There's a lot of those types of matches this week, but no like 1 versus 2.
KT's strength of schedule is just much more difficult. That's why. Because KT has Kwangdong, then Gen G, then DRX, and then D plus Kia. So KT is, they really, really, really need to beat Kwangdong. So the stakes, I will say the stakes in LCK are very high this week because the middle of the pack is so tight and one of those teams is not making playoffs.
Yeah. Who do you think is the one team that doesn't make it? You think it's Fearx that don't make it? Because they have hard strength.
Kwangdong are bums, dude.
Yeah, they're pretty bad. They just have like more chances.
Look, the reason why Kwangdong actually like did super well against Nongshim last week was because even though Tristana is nerfed, Bulldog is still a Tristana merchant, and they let him have Tristana. I think teams.
Yep.
I just think teams just need to ban the Tristana, and then Kwangdong sucks. Were you aware that this is actually very funny? If you actually look statistically at how they're playing, like they basically only play one style of composition. So Bulldog is 8-0 on Tristana, which means that when he doesn't play Tristana, his team is 8-17. And Cuz plays 2 champions with this team, which are Nidalee and Maokai. He has a combined 12-1 on these champions, meaning that when he does not play Nidalee or Maokai, his team is 4-16. So you just I would just start with not letting them have these champs. I don't know. But teams keep letting him do it. So God only knows. God only knows.
Guangdong are
Yeah.
on blue side. Well, they have side selection, so you assume they're on blue side first. So let's see if Coach Hirai gets the KT boys in gear after they lost their game against Bro and pick that up, or they do another
Dude,
ego
that's the
draft.
other narrative. Like losing to Brian was actually fucking terrible for KT, especially
Wait, what
losing
patch is it? What patch is it this week in LCK?
It
14,
should be
15 or no?
14-15. Should be 14-15.
Okay.
Ooh, so
That's pretty
Aurora will be
interesting.
enabled.
So
That
Aurora
is
enabled, and
Yep.
Nidalee. Nidalee's already been nerfed, right? Nidalee was 14-14 nerfs, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see.
Double checking. Does it say the patch on that one? No. I have like a bajillion different PDFs.
No,
on-
they don't announce it in advance, so you have to actually have an LCK insider to tell you what patch it's going to be on before Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's on 14-15. But I'm not sure.
Which is fine. It's not a secret or anything, dGon. Don't worry about it. But it's just like it is annoying that
I just got here, guys. Please don't send me back.
it's not a secret. It's not a secret. It's not a secret. Don't worry about it. The thing is, the teams know, so it's not leaking anything. Obviously, I'm pretty sure it's 14-15. But
Well, we've had 2 patches of 14-14. That's why I said I think it's on 14-15. Anyways, okay. That does it here for us. We'll tune in next week for the beginning of LPL playoffs, right? A couple of playoff games in there, and the LCK playoff push, and the final week of LCS. Until then, see you guys later.